to use the word air and variations of it, like first. And maybe make some puns, additional puns on it. So, yeah, as Warren stated, I studied architecture at another unnamed institution in Los Angeles. Housed in a very long, skinny building. It used to be a freight depot. But then I sort of soon lost my way and started doing installation and sculptural work, mostly disseminated in galleries and museums. And a lot of my work over the last decade has, in fact, centered around questions of air technology and the environment. You probably know this slide. I'm just going to show you a couple of slides that sort of inform my thinking in this strain of work. This is an illustration for Rainer Banham article, Home is Not a House, 1965. This one is by Francois Dre, called the Enviro Bubble. And you know, I mean, Banham was always like very provocative and seemed to sort of see far ahead somehow. And you know, he saw the way that technology was advancing in the control of environments, and he sort of provocatively suggested that we might not need buildings anymore, that we could just have the sort of mechanical and technological innards, as well as televisions and stereo systems, but that this environment would be totally sustained by the HVAC system. It would shape and condition the space simultaneously. Sorry. Forward. This is my favorite picture of the Radius. This is the godlike hand of Corbusier coming down on it. And, you know, of course, this was, you know, the radical proposal for a new, spacious, hygienic, non-cluttered, clean, airy, and healthful city. And, you know, for me, it was very much about how planning and precise systems of organization could lead to fulfilling these ambitions. So, you know, in early modernism, questions of hygiene were kind of essential to the sort of formulation of the modern project. And associated with questions of hygiene were questions of purity, but also control, isolation, separation, and containment. And then these would then translate visually and formally into a language for progressive architecture, of course. And then it kind of fast forwards to me when I was starting to do this work. I would see articles such as this, and I was thinking about sort of hygiene then and what our notions of hygiene and cleanliness and control had sort of turned out to be. And I just found it interesting, you know, this idea that maybe we become too clean, that kids have allergies more in North America than they do anywhere else, you know, because they use antibacterial soap, perhaps, but they become very sensitive to a host of ailments. And it's a picture of an oxygen bar. This is slow, isn't it? And then these are stills from this incredible film made in 1995 by Todd Beans. It's called Safe. So it's the first role featuring Julianne Moore's first role. And it's I mean, it's a very complicated film, but it takes place in this kind of sort of slightly sterile-looking, you know, suburb somewhere. I'm not sure, maybe in California. And it's about a woman who basically starts not feeling very well, and eventually figures out that she has environmental illness, and then has to leave her home, which is already quite sterile and isolated, and ends up in this kind of new age commune, living the rest of her life out in this sort of sterilized igloo. And the ending is very ambiguous, but there's this kind of tension there. Like, we wonder whether she's really sick. She obviously is ill, and you know what to do about that. So this is my first installation featuring air, I guess. It's called Airborne, and I mean, the backstory is that I didn't really mean to do this. But I kind of was in a Salvation Army thrift store, and I found one of these machines on the left, and I realized that I had that machine when I was in undergrad, and living in my dorm room with a roommate, and it's a Pioneer air ionizer purifier. So me and my roommate Stuart used to, sit around. He had one too. He had a better one, different version. But we would sit around kind of smoking cigarettes and like running these things. And then the ionizing sort of like made the air tingle a little bit, and so we're like, can we feel it? Like, is it making a difference? And but of course, like, we kind of didn't care in a way because we weren't saving ourselves from the smoke. We were worried that our parents would sort of pop in for a visit unexpectedly and realize how much we did smoke. So that's why we had these things. But and this is before I studied architecture. So 10 years later, I see one of these things, and I immediately sort of make connections with Corbusier and Neutra and Hannes Meyer, so on and so forth. That it kind of performed this loop for me back to the roots of historical modernism. So in Airborne, I just started collecting these machines, and they include air ionizers, purifiers, also humidifiers and dehumidifiers. And I constituted a kind of sort of urban plan, or a suburban or extra-urban plan, something akin to an outlying campus or office park, read at the scale of an architectural model, but also functioning at a one-to-one scale. These things are actually plugged in and operating, so there's a kind of like a loud whir in the space. This is the whole thing, and then the gallery space is sort of closed off, like sort of like you might find in a meat locker or something like that. This was a bit later. This is operating more at a one-to-one scale in the gallery. This is at the Henry Urbach Architecture Gallery in New York. This piece is called Exchange. Here it's kind of I imagine it as more of a kind of quasi-sacred space. It's sort of kind of a mixed-up type of style hall. And here, HEPA air purifiers. HEPA stands for something really high efficiency particulate air. Purifiers were stacked to form these sort of totem-like columns, and you sort of meander through them, and they're all operating, and they are, but kind of purifying in an absurd way, like kind of over-functioning to the point of dysfunction, I would say. I calculated based on the capacity that they were sort of taking all the air in the gallery and sucking it in and purifying it and spitting it back out like once every 37 seconds. That's why it's called Exchange. So kind of like a white cube that got really wicked. There was a series of floor-mounted pieces, sort of smaller versions of Airborne. This is called Complex. In the background, by the way, is also another piece, kind of related. At the same time that I started doing these pieces, I also started making wallpaper designs, and they were made out of aerial photographs of suburbs. And the series is called Pattern Language. These were the first ones I made. These were Pattern Language 1 and 2, Levittown. So these are designs made out of one picture of Levittown, which is in itself a kind of sort of serial repetition of similar types of houses. But then that kind of seriality played out until the image starts becoming a little bit psychedelic or op-artish or snakeskinish, something slightly less familiar. That's a close-up of the Levittown wallpaper. This is another complex piece done for actually an exhibition at UC Irvine. This one is like monumental structures on this plinth that is surrounded by a pool of water. So this is maybe more late modern here. And then one of this is that they're working as well, but in the pool, I inserted male and female synthetic pheromones cloud from, this was commissioned for the 2008 Venice Architecture Biennale in the Arsenale in Venice. Philippe's piece was about 200 feet down the hallway and is featured naked people, so it's much more exciting. But for cloud, like basically they became literally airborne. I was on a residency in Berlin at that time, and I was asked to do this piece, and I thought of this space, and I started amassing actually a whole new collection of machines now, and I'm dealing with sort of European and Asian and air purifiers from all over the world. I started collecting and putting them into these clusters, forming something like an armada of these things, or a kind of futuristic city read at another scale, as if they were kind of circulating through the space or traveling down. And so this is my list of all the machines. So it became a kind of international space station of like purification. German ones have really cool names. So, I mean, this became my statement for it. So it basically summarizes most of my work using these technologies. So cloud is comprised of domestic air purification appliances produced and consumed around the world. They wash, filter, ionize, ozonize, and sterilize our airspace, separating us from bacteria, allergens, germs, spores, dust, and other bad things. A model like clusters converge to create a floating polis, perhaps of the future, but also calling visions of futures past. And then I talk about Phantom later on, and then at the bottom, what will our brave new world be like? Clean, at least. And then these are just different installations of cloud that travel to Ireland. This is a shot of that installation. Slightly reconfigured. And then this was an exhibition in Toronto at the Museum of Contemporary Art. And more recently, last year at SFO in San Francisco, where it now has found a final resting place. This is called Matter. This was done at the same time that I was making cloud. This is for an exhibition in Berlin. So instead of focusing on the machines that treat the air, I focused on the air itself. So you enter a room and you see these two large projections. One of them is live, and the other one is kind of sort of stuttering, you know, and seeming in slow motion. And what's going on? They look like, it's called matter, and it might look like interstellar matter. It looks like snow, perhaps. But what happens is in another part of the room, there's a slide projector, and it's illuminating a cone of light, and then there's this pretty sensitive surveillance camera that is basically just filming the particulate matter in the beam of light in the same space. And then that's fed to the projectors here. So one of them is live. So you walk in, something happens, and you see the air react, and that could be just the dust stirred up by the visitors, or just floating around, or caused by a draft. The other one is the same footage that started at the same time, but played at half speed. So the longer the exhibition goes, the further behind in time the footage is that you're looking at on the other screen. So it becomes a sort of a record of past airborne particulate matter events. And I mean, I kind of like that too, because they look like stars, you realize that, you know, when we're looking at stars, we're looking at light that you know, got transmitted millions of years ago, right? So it's sort of the same phenomenon in a way, or related. So these are expanded. It's not just sort of air purifiers and air conditioning equipment, but none of you are old enough, but this is the first generation PlayStation in the basket here, and then there's all kinds of other things. One aspect of this is that, a lot of this stuff is obsolete, so it is also about this, the rapid cycle of obsolescence that all of this technology goes through. Blast, I called it Blast, it was the name of the journal of the Orticist movement, which was an artistic movement in the 20s and 20s, who also, like Bannon and others, illuminated about the effect of technology on culture. And the possible dark side of that question. So Blast is quite literally a kind of, either explosion or implosion of a lot of this stuff. That's a Nintendo, that's the first Nintendo up in the upper middle. There's all kinds of things, a dust buster, a soda dispenser, like, basically plastic stuff. There's the dust buster. This is the last project. I just did this a couple months ago. It's called Fantasia in 24 gauge, Opus 1. 24 gauge referring to metal. So it's kind of a musical title. Fantasia is a sort of a fun or capricious or whimsical piece of music. 24 gauge is the metal used that I used to make some metal, actually. So you walk into the gallery and there's a 7 foot by 7 by 7 cube hanging from the ceiling, a carpet and a knee stake underneath. When you approach, you look up into it, and then this is what you see when you look up. So it's a 6-sided mirror cube that you look up into, with a one-way mirror on the bottom, so you can look into it, and it forms basically an endless kaleidoscope of ductwork. But in this case, the ductwork has just become a little bit snazzy. There's a really bad pun involved in the grant writing that I did at the beginning. I didn't know what to call this, so I called it disco duct, actually. And it wasn't so lousy a pun that I got 3 grants for it, actually, on that. And then I couldn't get rid of the title until the very last minute. So this is maybe what the ceiling of Studio 54 would look like. And a Philip Glass, sort of like an HVAC person, maybe this is what it would be. And that's just looking straight up. Okay, so that's my presentation.